Hi, my name is Unija, and this presentation is about how we perceive objects in scenes. We recognize complex environments instantly, but this process is one of the brain's most impressive abilities. So I like to use this picture of the busy road just to kind of see how our brain analyzes what's going on in the picture. Most importantly, this topic is extremely relevant just because um, we can identify objects in entire environments in under 150 milliseconds. This is faster than a blink. It just feels effortless, but perception also requires the brain to analyze patterns, context, as well as structure. To kind of be able to recognize an object, the brain groups features like Gestalt principles. For example, closure lets us fill in missing shapes, and figure ground helps us separate important objects from the background. So here in this example, we have the hourglass picture and the two men, and some people can see the two men first, and then some people see the hourglass first. But it just depends on how your visual interpretation is, how like what it sees first, what colors it separates, and things of that sort. So this is just kind of a way to kind of just see how our brain and visual um characteristics looks at images and how it analyzes and the different neurons and things through your brain. Next we have that slide perception is just kind of understanding where we are. This scene perception kind of helps us know where we are because we can use and extract the gist of a scene almost instantly. Um, Even blurred images can be recognized just because of the color and patterns of the layout. So I didn't even have to know that this was a kitchen to know um to have to see the sink or the window. I didn't have to look that far to just my brain automatically was like, oh, that's a kitchen because of the layout. I kind of figured that that was the counter, and the things that are on the counter is what would be in the kitchen. And then we also have depth perception. Depth cues kind of help us understand distance. Molecular cues like shadows and perspective, sorry, work with binocular cues like disparity. This kind of gives us a 3D understanding of the world. So like the railroad track is a very good example of how this is used. Although you can't really see the very end of the railroad, your eyes use depth and perception to kind of analyze how far it is. And so, perceptual illusions are very important because it shows us how the brain sometimes guesses wrong. For example, the checker and shadow illusion. Two squares look different but are the same color. And then the dress went viral because people were assuming the different lighting. So they assumed that because the dress was in a dimmer lighting that it was gray or like a grayish gray or white color. And then some people are seeing like that it was black and blue due to the lighting. And then next we have kind of like why this matters in the real world. So these processes matter in real life, like self-driving cars depend on the object and scene detection. Another example is VR. VR relies on depth cues, and then kind of understanding perception also helps diagnose conditions like agnosia. So that's very important in medical as well. And then our brain overall creates memory. Perceiving objects and scenes is fast and interpretive, and then our brains piece together clues to create this meaning. Illusions kind of show how fascinating and tricky this process can be. So it's just very important to pay attention and how fast our brains are really selective with what we see and what we can't see. Overall, I kind of just want to dive in why this was my favorite topic of the semester. So perceiving objects and scenes has become my favorite, and the score just because it highlights how incredibly efficient and complex our visual system is, often working so seamlessly that we don't even recognize how much processing is happening behind the scenes. This topic kind of really helped me appreciate the perception that isn't just about taking in visual information, but it's about how the brain organizes, interprets, attaches, and visualizes the meaning of the world around us. Learning about the Gestalt principles, scene schemas, and object recognition processes made me much more aware of how often we rely on these automatic processes in our everyday life. It's almost like discovering the hidden rules behind something I've been doing effortlessly my whole entire life. Overall, perceiving objects and scenes stands out to me because it kind of highlights the intersection of cognition, attention, memory, and the structure of the visual world. And then it also just shows how perception is not just a sensory process, but it's a cognitive one.